What's up, podcast? So, as I'm sure you're all aware, COVID-19 is fucking up everything in the music industry. So welcome to the first, and hopefully not very many, isolation episodes of the podcast. I'm just at home here, hanging out with the doggo, drinking some Red Bull. Come here, Marty. This is Marty. Okay, hi. So during this time, things with the podcast are going to be a little experimental. Usually we have podcasts that I'm interviewing in person, but with this whole social distancing thing, we're probably going to be FaceTiming in some people, but also going to be doing some reaction stuff where I don't have to rely on people as much. But this episode that you're going to either watch or listen to features a number of different individuals in the music industry giving their perspectives on how this virus is affecting their work, their music careers, and maybe even their creative careers. So on the docket, we have Emma from Dying Wish, we have Andrew from the band I Am from Texas, and then we also have Cameron Nunez, who's a videographer based out of Florida. I really wanted to do this podcast because I'm hoping to bring some value to people who are in social distancing or have felt the ramifications of this virus, and I just hope that people remember that, you know, hardcore or DIY music is a community-based subgenre, and, you know, we're not alone in this, with that we're all feeling this together. And yeah, also just trying to be adaptive to this whole thing. So without further ado, let's roll these quick little interviews, and yeah, hope y'all are safe and wash your hands. So thanks, Emma, for coming on the podcast to talk about this whole crazy epidemic we're all in. For like the 2 or 3 people that don't know who you are, could you just give a little intro to how people would best know you in the music industry?
Yeah, so I sing in a band called Dying Wish. We're from Portland, Oregon. We're like a metal band essentially, but we're rooted in hardcore. So, you know, we play Wild Rose Hardcore Fest out in Calgary, which is the last time I spoke to you. And then I also book a lot of shows here in Portland. Most of the hardcore shows are something that I do, as well as I work for a big promoter in a big venue here in Portland. So I'm very much immersed in our scene here.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, the last time we chatted was Wild Rose Fest 2019, I guess it was. And yeah, that's when your production, can you remind me of what it is? Bookside or
it's called Brightside.
Brightside
Social.
Right. So that's it. Brightside was just coming into the mix at that point, and ever since then I've seen you, like any major tour that was announced, the Portland date was being run by you. So aside from the Dying Wish stuff, and anyone who's like watching who isn't in the Portland scene, like it's very apparent how hard you're working to make that a spot for bands to come through. So a thing that I'm doing with a lot of these interviews is just kind of getting the stories and the initial reactions when this, you know, this was all kind of taking place. And, you know, this podcast, you know, even if we put it out like 3 days ago, the status of certain things feel like they're totally different. So
it's ever evolving, really, this whole thing. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. What was your initial like your response when you started to hear things of like a virus that was, you know, coming from China over to the States and, you know, other places of the world? Did you think it would, you know, spread to Portland, or what was going through your head at that point?
I mean, I just think that I didn't take it very seriously. When I first heard about it, you know, I just thought it was something like the flu, and I think that a lot of people are still in the same position that I was back then. when I first heard about it. I think it really started to become kind of serious when we were on tour, and we were in Seattle and we were playing the Bear Project, and there was the first confirmed case of coronavirus that day in Seattle.
Oh,
So
wow.
it kind of hit close, you know.
Hmm.
But luckily, we only had 2 more days of tour left after that, so nothing we did got canceled.
Yeah.
But the whole thing started to become really severe uh, last Thursday. So let me check my calendar just for reference. This was March 12th, Thursday, March 12th, is when. So the company that I work for, Mike Thrasher Presents, we book shows at the Elcor Zone and at the Showbox and Croc in Seattle, a bunch of venues up there. We mostly do metal and like metal adjacent stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but they had placed a ban in Seattle on events 250 and over on Thursday the 16th. So for 4 weeks. So at that point, we already had 5 or 6 shows that we had to cancel immediately or
Right.
start to work to find postponement dates for that. So that's when it kind of hit. And then the next day we had the same thing in Portland, and that was Friday. And then I think Monday evening or something like that was when they banned any events under 50 people. And that's when we were like, okay, we're actually fucked.
Right.
Because we have a lounge in our venue. So our venue is a 550 capacity room. It's pretty big. Like Knock Loose sold it out when they played here last. And then we also have a lounge, which is a 21 plus room. It's 100 capacity ish. But I was like, hopefully I could still get away with booking some small gigs while, we're still canceling all of these big tours and pushing them back to the summer so that we can make money and I don't lose my job. And then that like totally went out of the window on Tuesday. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and like anyone, I think the first bigger events that I heard canceled, were like obviously like things like Coachella or like E3, and those are like thousands of people gathering. So like at least in our sub genre of music, like if we get 100 people, it's still like we can still have a good time in some cases. But yeah, like the volatile nature of things going from 250 to 100 to 50 to now like 10 in some states is pretty crazy. So the company that you're working for, like, are you guys like on like full work from home? Like, what was kind of the game plan going into this?
It's been really difficult because the owner of the company actually passed away 2 weeks ago. So
Oh,
like
sorry to hear that.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate, and he was really influential in our scene here. Like, I mean, I was going to his shows when I was like 15 and just moved to Portland, so
Right.
it was, it was just like one thing after another, like that, and then all of this. And I'm currently working from home because I take public transit to work. I take the train,
Yeah.
and I just was like, I have the ability to work from home, and I would rather not be subjected to that many people on a daily basis.
Right.
And the train is kind of dirty. I don't know. So I was just like, if I'm going to contract the virus, it's going to be there,
Right.
so I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home. And we've honestly been so busy. I get probably 50 emails a day about, proper cancellations, postponements. Our calendar is pretty much full from like August to October, which is really rare at this time. Usually we start to sort that out over the summer, but yeah, sorry, I kind of derailed, but
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has been really eye-opening to see how like connected to we are to like just people on an everyday basis of like not just like our germs necessarily, but just like how we're sharing, public transit or like just general spaces.
Right.
So that's been pretty crazy.
We actually were planning, so spite was supposed to be here this week.
Yeah.
With, Varials, Orthodox.
I am.
am
Yeah.
Dealer. And Dealer was supposed to still come up to Portland because they were going to drop off their gear here or something. They're from Australia, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I had somebody from their label hit me up and say, hey, can you help us book a show? And at this point, it was under 250, and but you had to honor like a 3-foot distance between people. So we were talking about doing this show that would probably draw 80 people in a theater meant for 550, so that people could be spread out.
Yeah.
And people always like, bands don't want to play a big room to 40 people where everybody's spread out, but
Yeah.
like, if it's absolutely necessary, we kind of had this conversation of, is this something that's doable? And that went out the window, but it would have been interesting to see. I'm kind of bummed that we didn't get to work that out, but
Yeah. And yeah, like I think the overall like DIY like music community is really in an interesting time, as like, like from my standpoint, like being a creative within that, like in the next couple weeks here, like I'm gonna have 0 sets to post, and I'm trying to, in that mix, trying to figure out other creative ways, doing podcasts like this or doing other stuff to kind of bridge the gap in between. But even when things are like, get the green light to go out, it won't be like, there might be a couple like initial shows that are thrown together because everyone just wants to, congregate and, listen to hardcore music and listen to some breakdowns. But it's not just, I was talking to my dad about this today, but things just won't go back to normal. It'll be like the new normal of our society. Yeah. So, and something I want to ask you in the sense of like, Wild Rose got canceled, unfortunately, but there's some other fests that are postponing their dates. So how have you guys been like, is that kind of like flipping a coin, or how are you making those judgment calls to like, we still want X to happen, but it's going to be X2, like, or is it, okay, this opportunity just can't happen and we'll just try and see something through later on?
It really depends. Like, a lot of people are pushing back their tours, rerouting. Some people, some bands are just like, have just lost a ton of money and just like can't recover.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. And then, a lot of like, we do pop and like rock, and a lot of the more established and more mainstream stuff I see is getting like rescheduled. But like a lot of stuff like Fit for an Autopsy, The Acacia Strain, like all of those, like, because they are kind of more DIY, smaller metal, I guess, those are just being like canceled outright.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how it affects everything. But specifically, I think usually like June through August is a really slow time of year for us at the theater because everybody's playing festivals.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people tour during the summer, which is kind of interesting. But we think that now it is gonna flip the coin, because this is gonna be the slow time of the year, and then the summer, everybody's gonna make up for it over that time, especially because all these festivals are being canceled. So
yeah. As far as like, something else that I saw, a promoter back home, he was putting on a metal fest in like mid-April, and unfortunately he had to cancel that due to this whole thing. But when he was trying to get reimbursements for flights and whatnot, the airlines were actually only reimbursing, the band members that he was flying out of like certain bands. So have you found in the midst of all this chaos, like something that you thought would have been super simple as far as trying to solve a situation, but it ended up being more of a headache? Not
necessarily, because we don't really do a ton of flyouts. I'm lucky to have not had any like bright side shows where I had deposits in, because I most likely would have lost that. So like a lot of these independent promoters with deposits in and like various other commitments, yeah, like they're probably in that position. But I haven't really dealt with anything like that extreme. I mean, everything is difficult.
Yeah.
Like this is all, but you know, I've actually been fairly lucky in that aspect, just also because I have a little more of a surface level position. You know, I don't have to worry about the big picture stuff. Like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff is something that I would handle usually, thank God. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, you're not like
yeah.
the last line of defense with that.
No.
Yeah.
No. I would. You'd have to pay me more.
So the one thing that I'm asking, because I'm, asking you from the more promoter angle, and then talking to some band people and some creatives as well. What would be your piece of advice for like people who, because bands are like, this is how you can support us during this time, but venues, are kind of in a tougher pickle because you need to have bodies in the door to have that like financial support. So, whether it's your venue or other ones, like what's kind of like the best way to support that at this time?
Honestly, I don't really know, because like I've seen a lot of businesses do gift cards, like buy a gift card for us now and then obviously like redeem it later when we're back in business. That's not something that we really do. Um, Honestly, the people that are being affected by this most are the bartenders, the sound techs, the stage managers, the security guards, box office people. You know, if you know anybody that works at a venue, they don't have work. Like it's not happening. And or somebody who's on a touring crew, like the opposite side, support them in any way that you can. Like, I guess if they, have some other means of art, support their art. Like a lot of front of house technicians, like they'll also mix and engineer stuff. Like if you're, making music, send that their way, or recommend them to people, or invite somebody over for dinner and cook them food, because like I know everybody's really struggling as far as like something as simple as like, where is my dinner going to come from, you know? That otherwise, like this is all, it's just like so overwhelming that I don't even think we've really had an opportunity to think of how we can support the building as a whole and not just the individual people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this has been very adaptive. Like, okay, like there's the initial need for people to either like self-isolate themselves, to just kind of flatten the curve. Like that seems to be the biggest thing, at least in this last week. But I think, as that progresses, maybe next week and then maybe the week after that, and it can be a little bit more like, okay, like, I can go outside and, like pick up like a bag of coffee beans from like, a local place. But right now it's like trying to minimize that foot traffic.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. The more we isolate ourselves and stop the spread of this disease, the faster that these people are going to be able to get to work. And I know that people are like sitting, watching the news of people in Florida congregating at beaches and being like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't it. You know what I mean? So that's a great point.
Just before we started Skyping, I saw a tweet that was like, I feel like I'm in kindergarten, like, and I'm getting my recess time taken away from me because of all the kids who are misbehaving or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw something funny that it was like, don't go outside and congregate, like, stay inside. And somebody commented, Florida left the group chat.
Yeah. Sorry to knock on Florida if anyone's listening there, but
no, it's just, people, I mean, I want to go to the beach, but as long as you keep your distance, but it's like people are going
Yeah.
ham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to take a slight detour, aside from the promoting stuff, and talk a little bit more about like the personal, how have you been dealing as far as like, you know, you mentioned you were working from home, but you know, is Dying Wish still like getting together for practices? Like what's kind of been going through for, it's such a weird time because you feel like you need to socialize and connect with people of like what's happening, but
Right.
it's the flip, like it's discouraged to do that.
Right. We're currently in the studio as well as working on writing a record. Hopefully my band doesn't get upset with me for saying that, but I know Sam has just been working his fucking ass off, writing songs. And, you know, whenever I have time, I've really tried to sit down and just like write as much as I can. And then we go into the studio on Sunday to finish up a couple things, and then we send that off to get mixed and mastered. So
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Yeah. So taking some downtime to like, to bust some ass and get some things done.
Right. I mean, we don't really play really a whole lot anymore anyways. So like we played in March and we were supposed to play with Darkest Hour in April, but now that's being postponed. So
Right.
we won't have a show. We're in the same boat as everybody, you know. We won't have a show for probably 3 or 4 months at this point.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to pick your, because I thought this was funny because I don't know if you've seen any of the hysteria at like the grocery stores and whatnot, but I always find like any of the I guess vegetarian or vegan substitutes are always stocked, and I thought I wanted to get your take on that, as a pretty advocate vegan as well.
To be honest, I live in Portland and we don't really have that problem because there is such a large vegan population here. Although I did go to Target earlier and saw that all of the meat was gone, and I was like, I bet they have Beyond Meat. But you know, yeah, it is kind of funny. I feel like I've seen that meme for a couple years. As veganism becomes more accessible and more mainstream and popular, I think that, you know, that kind of fizzles away. But there's still some truth in it for sure.
Yeah, because I think like, yeah, like I was seeing the toilet paper stuff was like the first stuff I saw, and then like meat, and I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of imagining like the grocery list of like a normal like white family of 2 or 3 kids and like what they would normally get, and if they were panicking and bunkering down. So, you know, things like just like regular flour, eggs, like just like basic stuff. But I'm like, as long as my oat milk is still here, I'm not gonna bat an eye.
Yeah, honestly, I can't find beans to save my life.
Yeah,
I miss beans.
Yeah, canned goods is another thing. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of it, unless there is anything else as far as the, you know, piece of advice that you could kind of like send people off to kind of encourage them. I know it's like a very, you know, everything's changing every day as far as like, you know, businesses closing and people going on, you know, trying to figure out how they're going to pay April rent and whatnot.
Right. I just think that the most important thing is to make sure that we do our due diligence as civilians to make sure that we try to stop this, I guess, as, you know, doing what we can, like self-isolating, you know. It is very important because there is a pretty good possibility that in a week or so, when we start to slow down, I won't have a job anymore. And so the sooner this is all over, you know, but at the same time, we're all in the same boat. Like, I think that humanity is going to change in a way. We're all going to step up and support each other. And I have been seeing a lot of just genuine love and support from strangers a lot lately. And I think that that's very heartwarming. So I really hope that it does change society you know, and brings us together. But as far as advice goes, like, yeah, just everything's going to work itself out eventually. Just stay healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
humans are resilient enough to tackle this. And you know, I was listening to a podcast where they were like, if anything, this is like the dress rehearsal for like a way worse, like something that is rapid, but it's a way higher like fatality rate. So it's like, you know, this is really showing how ill prepared we are for something like that. So
yeah, it's also showing a little, you know, how kind of selfish we can be in a way, you know, like people are dying and we're like, oh, like, you know, it's just 200 people that have died. Like, you know, it's definitely going to get a lot more serious, and it affects people on a personal level. Like if it was somebody you knew versus somebody you see on the internet, like it definitely has an impact. Yes. I mean, it's just like, it's all fairly, most of it is out of our control, except for what we can do on a personal level, which is stay inside, or, you know, if you want to go outside, like just keep your distance. I was chilling in my backyard for like 2 hours today. It was awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, my dog like has no beefs with this whole virus. He's like, I just get to hang out with dad all day, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm such a busy person, and I know a lot of people in the industry can relate to this. It's kind of a culture shock to be forced to not do anything, but it's also really nice to have some R&R for the first time in who knows how long.
Yeah, that's for real.
I don't know. Do you normally work from home, or?
Yeah, like a lot of my work being like a freelance videographer is kind of like frozen, and you know, I'm trying to figure out like small jobs that I can do. You know, I just locked in a really small job for like an album promo, but if it doesn't involve me having to go out to capture something, and I can either just, you know, rip it from YouTube, or, you know, use past show footage that, you know, I've shot already, that's the ideal circumstance. But if I have a client that I'm supposed to be, you know, at their business and their business is closed because of this, then it affects me too. But, you know, in a normal world, I was already like working from home or working at coffee shops and things like that. And, you know, this seems to be the best situation, but it's also like not having a lot of work is like, okay, well, what am I going to do? So, yeah. Yeah. But I think all in all, like, you know, I think it's, again, like, been really apparent how important it is just like to check up on your friends and just, you know, have chats like this. I had a friend who was like driving home to Edmonton. He lives in Vancouver now. And I was like, I saw on his Instagram story, and I was like, I just called him for half an hour and we just chatted about this whole thing. And it was like, oh, since you're going to be home so soon, like I would ask if we could hang out, but like we actually shouldn't do that. So, but that phone call felt like a hangout in some ways. So.
Yeah, I've been FaceTiming a lot lately, you know? I also live with 3 people, so like it's nice because I have that social interaction. Stay home, so. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a big thing for me is like feeling the responsibility in a way to like produce content during this time. Like not like just to entertain people, but like create stuff that's relevant for right now, and just to have the people who are maybe single and they live by themselves and they are like doing their due diligence to like fully self-isolate. You know, I just watched like the Year of the Knife stream just before I called you, so like
I didn't get to.
It was really sick. It's crazy how like in a matter of days Sonny can just like sidestep and do this at the production level that he's doing already. So yeah, definitely go watch that or listen to it if you haven't.
Like that yourself?
There is talks. I think that there is a couple kinks that we're working through, but there's a band that has reached out to us, so we're trying to see if we can do that. So if anything,
I would love to see mortality rate, serration, trench. What's another Calgary band that's a good one?
Plead, Set Straight, Fuse. Yeah, there's a number of guys, so.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Cool.
Would love to see it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast and spending some time just to share your perspective. And yeah, thanks, Emma.
Thanks for having me.
So, first off, thanks, Andrew, for jumping on the podcast with me. For those like 5 people who don't know who you are, could you give just a quick intro of the band that you are a part of and where you're from?
My name's Andrew. I play in the band I Am from Dallas, Texas.
Cool. Yeah. And to give you a bit of context, I've just been hitting up other people in the music industry, people that play in bands, people that book shows, and people who are maybe creatives with bands. So maybe they're on tour taking photos or doing some videos. So I kind of wanted you to share your experience on the band aspect, because you guys were on tour when all this virus COVID-19 stuff was happening, and kind of wanted to hear what your experience was while you were reading the news and headlines and whatnot, and how you guys kind of dealt with that while you were on the road.
We heard that like places were getting capped out at like a certain number for venues and stuff, and so we were in Illinois whenever that venue got capped at 250, and there were 300 tickets sold for that show. So there were kids getting refunded at the door for tickets they already bought.
Oh,
which is crazy. Yeah, and then so we were like, fuck, man, like this is going to happen for the rest of the tour. And then the next day we were playing Minneapolis and got word from the headliner's agent that the whole tour's canceled because every venue's capping everything. And at first we were just like, like whatever, dude, like who gives a shit? Like these kids still want to come to these shows,
Right.
But as like it's progressing, I guess it kind of makes, it makes sense to not have these large gatherings of kids spitting in my face and fucking breathing all over us and shit. So
yeah,
I guess it kind of makes sense,
Yeah, and I guess like when the regulations when they came out were like it was 250, like for any like bigger concert where it's like there's thousands of people, it's like sure, that makes sense. But anyone who's into hardcore or like underground music who are like, hey, 250, that's still like a great show. So
exactly, yeah. So it's like, to those kids, they don't give a shit, dude. Like,
yeah,
they'll die for that shit, so they don't care.
Yeah, but things progressed very rapidly, where it was like 250 and then 100 and then 50, and
yeah,
now
I think that's where they started to like be like, yo, like we got to start cutting this because they started capping at 100. So there was no way that a 5-band package could do that feasibly,
Right. And so you guys found that out when you were in Minneapolis.
Yeah, that was the day we found out that the tour was canceled, and that was a fucking show because we were all like, fuck it, we're all dying, let's fucking... So it was a wild-ass show. It was a good show.
Yeah, and then, so at that point, it was like, okay, well, let's Google Map all the way back to Texas, or were you guys trying to figure out things on the way back?
So a week before that, our transmission in our van went out.
Mm-hmm.
So our van was in New York at the time.
Gotcha.
And the day before, we flew out our bassist to go get the van because it was ready after a week. So he was driving back at the time the show got canceled.
Oh, wow.
And so we were like, fuck, we're going to be in Minneapolis for like 3 days. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? Because we were riding with 3 of the other bands.
Oh, I got you.
That last week.
Yeah.
We were split up between all the bands. And so Varials and Dealer were like, yo, like, let's put on a last-minute show in Iowa because we were supposed to play there the next day.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's just do a quick DIY show, see if we can do anything. We're like, fuck it. I mean, we don't got shit to do because we're still waiting on the van to get driven back. So we drove to Iowa, played that show, which was sick. Fucking, it was like, what? I don't even know, like 10 hours notice.
Yeah.
It was over 100 paid. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't care then. But our bassist ended up getting the van early, so he showed up right at the end of that show.
Oh,
and so
I
from
see.
there, we were like, all right, let's fucking go.
Yeah, let's head home.
Yeah, and then, which sucks, because Burials and Dealer actually were like, yo, let's play a show in Nebraska the next day. And they drove all the way over there. And because they had a coronavirus picture on the flyer, the owner of the venue canceled the show.
Oh, really? Like, they were trying to use it as a marketing, like, thing, and then they're like, nah, I'm not about...
Yeah. After they had driven all the way over there, I was like, fuck, I'm glad we didn't play that shit. This would have been fucked.
Yeah. Ugh. And that might, you know, that's pretty funny, because I saw that Iowa show, and you guys had, like, you know, it was, if anything, that might have helped the show in that case, because people are like, this whole situation is shitty, like,
trying to make light of it, I guess, you know.
But then, like, shot themselves in the foot in a way with, like... Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, like, neither of those bands are, like, supporting the virus, like, but it's just kind of funny.
It was just like, yo, everybody's canceling this shit, so let's just keep playing.
Yeah. So obviously, like, a theme that I've seen with a number of bands, not just you guys, but, you know, a lot of tours that were either in the midst of touring or upcoming, you know, there's been large merch orders that have been put through, that stuff that you guys are sitting on, or, you know, flights that had to be refunded. So what's your guys' kind of situation, and how have you tried to be adaptive with, like, you know, just trying to, you know, give people an option to support if they want to, and make the best of a shitty situation?
Yeah, so I guess what people, or what a lot of people don't see, is like how bands, when we order merch, we try to order it for the whole tour.
Right.
You know, so it's a really large quantity. And then add on reorders of stuff that you know, sell out of. So we still had a week and a half of this tour left. So we had merch for another week and a half of tour. Which is a lot of merch.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good amount of size. So, like, and a lot for the bigger bands, they order even more, you know, because they're selling a shit ton more.
Yeah.
You got bands, you know, all these bands that are sitting on thousands of dollars worth of merch that they order, and then they can't do anything with it. So it comes down to, you know, okay, well, let's put it up online, and these kids that wanted to go to these shows, hopefully, you know, they'll buy it online.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where everybody's at right now with it. I mean, we put our stuff up yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
And kids have been buying it, and it's sick because, you know, a lot of these kids didn't get to see us on some of these shows that, you know, especially areas we don't ever get to go to a lot, which is like, you know, Seattle and fucking Oregon and stuff like that. We don't get to go there much because it's so far. So these kids, you know, that gives them an option to support us in any way, which is from our big cartel, which is on our it's on our Instagram bio and shit.
Yeah.
Anywhere you see the links. But yeah, that's really like the best way. I know everybody's seen it everywhere, like, well, the best way to support a band is to buy their merch right now, but it really is, because, you know, we're like, we put all the money into the merch. You know, it's either that or it sits there and does nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
And like you said, like, you know, I've had it where bands have come through Calgary where, you know, they've actually run out of merch, like, mid-tour, and then they're scrambling to figure out a way to print something locally, or, you know, what have you. And that's a huge headache. So it's better to, in a normal world, which we don't currently live in, you are putting in a lot of investment into having a lot of stuff to last you through a tour. And if there's still a few pieces left, you know, throwing that up on Bandcamp is totally, or, you know, whatever merch site is totally normal. But to have it, you know, a large amount all at once.
A full like tour order of merch on there is like, fuck, man, we got to move all this shit.
Yeah.
You know? Because that's how, like, whether people want to see it or not, that's how any of these bands that you like, that's how they make a living, or, you know, make any kind of profit off of touring and being a musician.
Right.
You know, it's by, you know, these guys coming to these shows and, you know, buying merch.
Yeah.
You know, everything else is percentage, and you got to give it to some other person that does something for you. So it's like, that's literally the best way to support any of these bands that you like.
And like you said, like there's a lot of behind the scenes that, you know, I guess like, you know, it's not in your guys's like, there's no point in making a big Facebook post about like, oh, our bassist has to, you know, go get this van because we broke down, unless it's like, hey, we are in a real pickle here. But you guys, it sounds like, okay, this is happening. This is normal woes of being on tour in a way. So we're just going to make things happen so we can progress, whether it's like getting that flight to fly your bass player to pick up the van. But yeah, those are a bunch of things behind the scenes.
No, yeah, it is for sure.
The other thing I want to ask is, I know that you guys recently signed with E1 Heavy, I guess is like the technical term. So that's awesome. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And I know like this virus has also been affecting the potential release dates and progress of, you know, recording and releasing music. Are you guys feeling the effects of that as well on that side?
As of now, no, we're not, because we're going to record in June, so that's still a thing, and that's still in place. As far as like releasing it, I'm not sure if that's going to affect it or not.
Right.
You know, that's all depending on how long this thing actually lasts.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm hearing shit from, oh, it's only 2 weeks to, oh, it's going to be August.
Right.
You know, like, there's such a broad span on how long this thing's going to last. So,
yeah.
And I think it's going to affect a lot of people, you know, like you said, releases. Like, I know a lot of bands are going to have to push back on releases because, I mean, a lot of people are out of jobs. A lot of people are out of, you know, there's no way for them to support artists that they like, you know, which is also, you know, a shit thing.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, it's a lose-lose situation where there is like, here's how you can support bands or artists or people who do creative work during this time, but there's also just the reality of people holding their dollars really close to them because they're,
which I understand.
Yeah.
I get that, you know. It's like, you know, for someone who doesn't know when their next check's gonna come, why would you spend money on, you know, this shirt or this album, you know? I get it. You know, it sucks. It's a shitty situation for everybody.
And I think like the span of where it could be, I think is you know, hearing certain things where it's like, oh, like in Wuhan, like things are actually contained, but they went through like 2 or 3 months of hell. So it's like, you know, what is our time frame the same? Is it longer? Is it shorter?
Yeah, you know, it's everything's so vague and up in the air right now that we don't know like what the, because I mean, you're hearing all these different articles for every thing, hearing something different about the virus from this one. It's like, the fuck, what am I even supposed to think right now? Like, I don't even know like where it's at. So I'm just taking it day by day and just kind of whatever happens right now, I guess.
So you're at home doing self-isolation, hanging out?
Well, I mean I'm still hanging out with friends and everything, but you know, like as far as like going out, obviously, I mean, I don't go out very much anyway. You know, just kind of hang out in the garage and just be in my spot.
Work on your bikes. Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Well, I'm kind of trying to do these like interviews in like a blitz kind of way. So, if do you think there's anything else? Like, I think the overarching theme that I wanted to hit on is like, what are the ways that people can support, you know, bands specifically in this time? But if there's anything else that, you know, you think that's worth sharing for people to consider, whether it's, you know, how people can, you know, maybe what's a way that people can support certain bands if they can't make a financial contribution?
I mean, I know a way that always at least makes a difference with us and a lot of artists that aren't on a huge scale is to, you know, stream the music, you know, post about it, you know, because I mean, it's social media, you know? One person posts about it, another person sees it, you know, it's all that thing. So if you can't financially support a band, you know, social media and sharing and posting about them goes, just as long.
Yeah.
That's definitely a way that, I feel like a lot of musicians care about. It's something that helps us too.
Yeah. Gets the word out, almost, donating with your time in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't always have to do it financially if you're not able to,
Right.
There's always other ways to do it.
Yeah, cool. And then as far as people keeping up with you and or I am, what are your guys' like social tags that I can put at the end here?
Yeah, mine is ELX Chapo, CHOPPO, and the band's one is I Am TX Music. And yeah, we post on there all the time. So
yeah,
I don't post on mine. I post on mine very much, but I hate social media in general. So I try to. It sucks. I feel like I have to like post a lot of the times. I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
I have to make this post. So, but I'm trying to get better at it because I know it matters.
Gotcha.
But
Cool.
But yeah, the band one for sure. Keep posting on there. We post updates all the time and everything on there. So
yeah. So definitely, for those listening or watching, definitely go check out the I Am merch. And any band that you want to support during this time is important. And then you guys will have some new music, it sounds like, in the fallish. So that's exciting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, cool. So maybe we can just start off real quick, and you can just give me a little intro of who you are and maybe how you'd be best known in the music community.
Well, I guess intro, my name's Cameron Nunez, and I am a videographer based out of Jacksonville, Florida. But I guess most of my work really doesn't come out of Jacksonville, Florida. So just kind of a home base, place to have cheap rent.
Right. And I think a lot of people, especially in hardcore, would know you for filming all of the FYA bands and sets. You've been doing that for a number of years now.
Yeah, I've been shooting shows or hardcore shows in Jacksonville since 2009. I want to say that's when I first moved out here. But I was shooting in Orlando, but Orlando was more so deathcore. A lot of that stuff was very Whitechapel-y.
Right.
Everything coming out of there was Devoured by Pestilence, Fall Breath, Catalepsy, handful of bands like that. But yeah, everybody knows me mainly from FYA, Southeast Beast, and a handful of other rural things like that.
Mm-hmm. And as far as I think that was how I was initially introduced to your work, and then I saw that you're doing a lot of freelance videography work as well for either bands, or Kerrang is another one of those, I guess, clients, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I've been freelancing for a very long time. Hardcore has always been great, and I love music, but it has not really put a dollar in my pocket. If we want to be as blunt about it, it was a passion project, so it's not like I was surprised. So you kind of find ways to supplement the money. So I would go shoot weddings, or I'd go shoot other gigs so I could buy better audio gear, better cameras, and then I would just take all that stuff and shoot better live footage of shows. So it's just kind of constantly cannibalizing itself into building up to what it is now. But I say that, but now I don't really shoot many live shows much anymore, just because they're not as frequent as they used to be.
Right. Yeah, but at least over the last little while that I've seen you, whether there's ebbs and flows with freelance work, but if you could write your own, your preferred clientele, I guess, is within that music industry, I guess.
Yeah, if hardcore will always be something I really love, and it's definitely something FYA. I don't make a dollar from FYA. That's really honestly just, I like doing it. I enjoy what Bob is able to bring to Florida, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as getting paid, I don't get paid to do it. So it's
right.
That's something I kind of do just because most of my work now is a lot of festivals. It's when I tour, it was recently it was with Hollywood Undead and a few other bands like Bad Wolves, Diamante, And then every now and then I get like tours with like friends and homies and like hardcore bands like Sea Space Cowboy, Knock Loose, etc.
Right.
Chamber,
Yeah.
Boons, and a few others. But yeah, it's a mix. It's definitely a mix. My paid work is more on the metal festival side, more like mainstream music in the world. But everything else is more passion based as far as hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you mentioned you were on tour with Hollywood Undead super recently, and that's when kind of like the news of this outbreak and the realities of it really came to play. So I think what I want to do with a lot of these like really snapshot or really quick interviews is like kind of get like the stories and kind of what was going through your head while you were on tour. Because you guys were overseas at that point.
Yeah, it was full EU. I want to say we were in Milan, Barcelona, Leipzig, Madrid, Greece. We were everywhere. I mean, like, and it is. I mean, it hit out there much quicker than it hit in the U.S. It was kind of wacky because you saw like President Dumbass calling it a hoax, and then meanwhile we're actually like hearing locals like freak out and kind of like have a little bit more prep.
Right.
Like, yeah, it was something that we saw as a little bit more eye-opening before, and then cancellations, like there was talk of it really early on, and we didn't think it was going to be like super serious. We thought like maybe a couple shows might be an issue, but then we started realizing quarantines were happening, and like we were in Italy, and then like 2 days later they shut it down.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, we definitely got hit with reality really quick. And then before we knew it, the whole tour was canceled. We were talking with like people from Live Nation, and they were basically not too stoked. And then we had to jump on a plane and head home before anything really kind of hit the fan.
Yeah. Was there a fear that like if there was a moment of hesitation, whether an hour's worth or a day's worth, that you guys might not even be able to make it home because flights could have been either canceled or airlines could have just been on hold?
Yeah, I mean, we had our TM, luckily Jack, he was really good at like waking up super early and just like jumping on it, because as soon as we found out it was an issue and the second the motions were made, that was like, all right, we got to go home, because we knew early, before we really made much of an announcement, we knew that the shows had to be canceled. But like fans and people, like a lot of those fans are diehards, and it was like until everybody on our team knew like 110% that we couldn't make anything happen, that's when they had to actually like publicly announce it. But we were pretty much at 90% for like a good week. But yeah, no, like the TM, he jumped on phone calls, but he was on the phone from about like 9 a.m. until about 7 p.m. just trying to get flights situated, because it was just like he'd get looped in, or like 4-hour-long waits, or he'd have his calls constantly dropped. And so like me and him shared an office that day, so it was like you'd have to go and do sound check or do whatever, and then he'd come back and his phone would have been cut or had gone blank. And so that was like the game for that full day. We were about a day away from Paris, like, so we were almost chilling in France, and then they got quarantined, I want to say right after Italy. So we would have been kind of SOL if we had been out there for too long, but we missed it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the thing, like we're recording this on the it's hard to remember what day it is, but we're recording this on the Wednesday prior to this. Usually gets released on Fridays, and just seeing the day-to-day like volatile nature of it, like either certain new countries are getting absolutely like quarantined, or like cases over here in Canada like doubling by the numbers. So it's kind of in that like everyone's just trying to like flatten the curve, I guess, is like the generic thing that people have been saying. But as far as like your like freelance work, like once you got home, like what's been going through your mind on that front?
Well, I mean,
as far as like
like this old calendar is usually pretty good, and it is completely blank.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best visual is if you really wanted to kind of see. Like I came home because there was potential of doing a 5 Finger Death Punch tour, and that was kind of the next gig. I was still kind of waiting to hear back, but if that fell through, Hollywood Undead still wants me on the road, and they had something coming up with the band Bad Wolves. That was like a 3-week run, as well as some like other promo work for them. So I was supposed to, April 8th was the 5 Finger tour, and that, to my understanding, isn't looking too great. And so I'm going to assume that that's no longer a thing. Because we just haven't heard back. Nobody's really made any hard decisions on content. But I assume it's just everything's getting canceled.
Yeah.
And then any type of work, it's hard. I mean, like, because most of my stuff, it's like bands. So you have multiples of people. And then when you come out here, a lot of these people have normal everyday jobs. So it's kind of hard for me to like book anything because now everybody's trying to like hunker down and hold on to finances naturally because we don't know what's going to happen for the next however many weeks, however many months. And so it's really kind of put me in a bind because I have zero income coming in from like new work. Luckily with Hollywood Undead, I do have like stuff that we had backlogged that I'm working on that will be paid.
Right.
But yeah, as far as like any new stuff coming in, not really.
Yeah, and that's something that's been on my mind is like being a fellow videographer and needing to, you know, I think the one thing on the video side is like you can go somewhere, even if you're only there for a weekend, shoot something, and then spend as much time as you need like back at home, like editing that and sorting through clips and, you know, sending out drafts to be approved and whatnot. But when, you know, things, however it's set up, whether it was like events or like you have daily or, you know, weekly check-ins with certain businesses, and then now it's like their businesses are closing and they're trying to take precautions, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
And right now it's like a very, very big snowball of disaster right now, honestly.
Yeah, I'm definitely not looking forward to, I guess, what's next, because like most of my work, it's like you kind of get a dry period where it's like everybody, as far like, I don't know if most normal people know, but there's seasons. Like everybody kind of has their seasons.
Right.
This is like the season for like touring bands, and a lot of people kind of prep for these moments. And right now, the issue for the future, obviously, income based, like for most people, like, do people want to pay for shows or to go to these concerts or to pay for tickets for festivals that are now not even refunding them? I know some festivals have like come out saying that like people are just SOL on those tickets. And and then of course, like, you just look at all these things that are being postponed and canceled, and they're basically going to be stacked on top of one another come later in the year if they're able to get back on their feet. So it's going to be like everybody's going to be fighting tooth and nail to try to like either reinstate or get the tours that they had canceled or new tours in on top of all the old stuff that is now trying to come back. So I think festivals and touring is going to be kind of a clusterfuck for the rest of the remaining year when everything kind of like settles.
Right.
But it's like between finances and scheduling, I feel like a lot of people are going to have a lot of issues, and then everybody else, like all my friends, are currently broke. I mean, a lot of my friends have now found themselves without months of work, and all in a fell swoop, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like kind of how you were mentioning earlier, like some, like I think whether it's a small business, a big business, a band, whatever, like a lot of people are just trying to be as transparent and upfront as possible. So it's like, you know, there was a series in the last few weeks where it's like every post was some PR statement about what they're doing to, you know, limit the ramifications of the virus. But then it's like you see one festival or one show being canceled, and then the other one, it's like, you know, again, going back to that snowball effect. And, you know, it's been interesting to see some festivals as well, just like they are saying, Wild Rose, for example, which I film here in Calgary, like we did everything we could, but because of these things, like we are gonna just call this year as a loss and just pick up again next year. And then there's other festivals that are postponing and trying to figure out, like, if their fest normally happens in early May, well, hopefully we can do something in June or August. But I'm not sure if you have any opinions. I know FYA is like it's at the start of January, so it's already happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're still working through some of the sets, but what are your thoughts? If it's, I guess, like, for me, I'm just hoping that the spirit of like live entertainment, music, and hardcore, it won't die because of this, but it's definitely being affected for sure.
Yeah, I guess my only hope with like any type of hardcore subculture, any type of like underground shows, live shows, maybe people have a little bit more appreciation. Because I feel
Sure.
like nowadays it's like pulling teeth to get kids to come to shows, and I think having a hiatus of a couple months maybe will have them feel a little bit more grateful for some of the things that they have or some of the scenes that they have. I mean, as far as festivals, I feel really bad for a lot of promoters. I feel bad for a lot of like industry workers. I think people think baseline, I've seen the argument with a lot of people where it's like, oh, photographers are out of work, oh, bands are out of work, but there's such a wide scope, especially on a large scale, of like LDs and TMs and sound engineers and all these contracts that have happened, and then vendors for a lot of these festivals. Like, it's bankrupt a lot of people. Like, even the people that I work with, music experience, like, it's like the guy that runs that is like one guy, and now he's looking at basically all the relationships he built and having to maintain a lot of those things with like we're finding out that there's people having issues, like manufacturers are having issues because a lot of their guitars or things come from like China, and you don't really think about that, but yeah, there's like instrument companies that are now having to like look at this as like a really hard effect. So yeah, I don't know. I guess like I'm curious as to what the kind of like short-term effect is. Obviously, like we look at but like I feel very bad for a lot of my friends that are like merch guys or sound guys or whatever else that are also feeling like this pain right now. I luckily have a little bit of money set aside, but not a whole lot to last like longer than necessary.
But and like different states and different countries are slowly announcing we are going to be doing X, Y, and Z to make sure that people can get through this tough time. And certain businesses are like we got a Domino's pizza last night that was like 50% off for like the entire week, just to kind of like I guess there's a weird gray area or like fine line of like people taking this as like a marketing opportunity to like make whatever dollars that they can, but then there's also like people who are genuinely just trying to take care of their community in a way.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of true colors showing. Like, you got like the influencers on the internet, like clout chasing, like the next big meme that's gonna make them popular, and then they don't give a shit about anything because they make all their money from the internet anyways. And then you have actual real world working people that are like fucked out of jobs, like not knowing when how they're going to pay their paychecks. I mean, it's like, I guess for me in the US, like I don't really have a whole lot of faith in our government, and I feel like the way it's been treated has been just like an absolute joke. Like, especially in Florida, like we have a bunch of dumbasses going to the beach, like in droves. It's not even just like a handful of people. It's like, I just don't think there is an understanding as far as like the ramifications of their decisions. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's like not as lethal as the cold. It's not, but it's like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's like people are more worried about being infected, and even if it is low scale to high risk, like it's like until this is kind of eradicated, the panic is still going to be there, because no matter what, the news is going to spin it in whatever way they can. Like, we could be months from now with like a low number of people, but as long as there's still people infected, there's going to be issues. Like,
right,
nobody's really taking the precautions that they need because we're so used to like kind of swabbing everything away. It's not serious until it kind of affects you directly. I think that's the issue. But yeah, I digress. I mean, I'm just as far as work, as far as like music, I definitely hope that it can kind of like push forward. I'm happy that people like Sunny are like being proactive. I'm happy for everybody in Code Orange for making the best of that situation, because like I definitely think that release show was like what they did in that circumstance was probably the best possible thing they could have ever done. And but knowing that a band like that, deserving of a release show for such a great record, like that still hits me. Like, feeling bummed for my friends. And I think there's a lot of things I think like that. That's like tours are being cut short of bands that are doing like really cool things, and a lot of bands are being left home with like a ton of merch still there, and there's nobody to buy it because all these kids are also finding themselves broke. But
I think what as of the day of recording this, Sonny also announced that he's going to be doing a live stream with You're the Knife on this coming Friday. So essentially the day this drops is the day that live stream will be going up. But that's also been interesting with like people just like Sonny is this like innovative like tech wizard, so that he already had, I feel like, a huge piece of the pie already in place for doing something like that. And so, like I haven't chatted with him as far as like the technical things to throw that together in 48 hours, but a lot of people are just asking bands to live stream it and maybe don't know the technical sides of like, well, it's not just like plug a USB cord into a camera and plug it into your computer. Like, there's a couple steps in between that.
Yeah, no, Sonny's work is so underappreciated. Like, I'm glad he's getting a lot of attention now, but like I've punished him for I don't even know how long. Like we first chatted through Tumblr like years ago, and and I just remember like watching his videos and watching the progression of like the video quality to audio quality, and just like where he's at now. The guy's just an absolute machine. And he's so driven. He's so hardworking too. So it's like, I think out of anybody, he's probably the most well equipped to make things like that happen. I can't say that if the band gave me 48 hours, I'd know how to tackle like full mixed and mastered audio and a multicam streaming
and blending the visuals and all that. Like,
huge shout out to Sonny. He's always kind of been the guy that's like one step ahead in that world. He'll always think there'll be anybody to surpass him. What was it? Dethrone the King? Is that is one of his memes? Take it down.
Hate 5 or Hate 6 7 or something. But yeah, major shout out to Sonny, and I think the overall theme here is if you can find a way to support a band, whether it's if you're a creative and you're trying to find a way to support a band, like doing a re-edit of photos, or trying to put something together. I think like I'm gonna do an intro to this podcast, but like I think creating content about this helps people get through it together, because I feel like hardcore is a community that kind of has to hurt together in trying times like this. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing some thoughts. And how do people keep up with you and check out your work?
I want to say everything is basically my name at Cameron Nunez. Is pretty much on all platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Probably won't see a whole hardcore much, if I'm being honest, just because like everything that I get now seems to be out of that realm at this point. But YouTube, you can check in for FYA. I feel like that's the only time anybody kind of tunes into my stuff, is like when that kind of kicked in. So yeah, that's basically where you can find me. But.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks again, Cam, for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience. And hopefully this is resonates with someone else who's maybe a fellow photographer who's kind of going through a similar stance, and to know that they're not alone in this, I guess. So thanks for coming on.
No problem.